Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Welcome to the 10th episode of Startup Grind Bratislava. Before we start, I would like to give a big thanks to our main partner, KPMG Bratislava. Also, big thanks to our media partners and to the whole team of M.dot for providing this amazing space. Before we start, I would like to introduce our guest today. For those of you who don't know Pavel yet, he's a founder of M.dot, very successful company that got acquired by GoDaddy 3 years ago. But mainly, people know him as a very humble person with very strong work ethic. So I'm very looking forward to hearing about his story. And please now give a round of applause for Pavel.
Thank you for having me here.
So Pavel, let's start with a quick set of questions about your background. So if you can talk a bit more about where you were raised, what did your parents do growing up?
To the basics.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's actually interesting because I didn't get to grow up in an environment that would support me in entrepreneurship or, IT in general. My parents, they were in the water supply services, so that wasn't really anything that would actually expose me to that whatsoever. But I was lucky enough that my cousin actually he borrowed me a computer. It was a Sinclair ZX Spectrum back there, like almost 30 years ago. And I fell in love with that. And ever since that moment, I was like 6 years old. I knew that whatever is going to be my job in the future is going to involve computers. So that's the beginning.
Yeah. So in regards to your school years, so which university did you choose? What was your major?
So I went to Brno to the university, computer sciences obviously, it was a Masaryk university. And the problem with me is that I'm a pretty handsome guy. Like, I don't mean handsome, I mean hands-on. The problem is that even though I read 10 books on a certain topic, the actual experience for me is different. The whole theory is nice, it's good to know that, but I just have to experience things to learn it. That's the way how I learn. And I didn't get that feeling at the university, so yeah, I'm one of those dropouts.
Great. You want to add something?
I just wanted to say that that's not a receipt for life for everyone. Like,
Of course.
That's the way how I learn personally.
Yeah. So moving forward to your biggest entrepreneurial endeavor so far, founding M.dot, it's already mentioned, exiting to GoDaddy. Many people here might know your story, but as we are also on YouTube and there are a few people that might not know your story, just let's go quickly through this successful project of yours. So how it all started.
So I don't want to bore you by all the details of me getting to know Dominic, who's my co-founder. Basically, we worked together for several years already. We had some products that we would release on the App Store in the past, and we wanted to level up our game a little bit. And we struggled running that business here from Europe back then because there was not a lot of people having relevant experience that could help us get a little bit elsewhere. We also felt the pressure of the App Store back then. So we had like 500,000 of customers with our products. So you could say it was pretty successful, but on the App Store you have this problem of a melting ice cube, where your sales peak and it just slowly goes down as the App Store expands. Yeah. And we wanted to use app, only as a delivery of a different experience of some kind of service. We stopped thinking about the App Store as the mantra of something that could actually, keep your living up. So we knew that we have to build a different product, and we have to move. We have to move somewhere where are people with relevant experience who can help us, expand our business, expand our thinking. So we started with different ideas. We had a lot of ideas. One of those ideas was a certain marketplace of skills. There's one side story I don't want to bore you with that, but it ended up as a huge learning for us. But we wanted to stay on the productivity side, and we actually had this idea of, hey, why don't we help people or people that actually have some kind of skills or small businesses that that are the backbone of the economy, help them create a website. Like, there was a bunch of companies before that had this idea, but like the problem is that all of the software that existed until that point were desktop computers only. But there's so many emerging markets that don't have computers whatsoever, but they do have a smartphone in their pocket. Why don't we allow them to build their site on their smartphone? So that was the basic idea, and I would say we were the first, coming with this idea to Silicon Valley, and we heard a lot of interesting feedback from even investors in there that, a lot of people didn't believe in that idea in the first place, but we did, and so we decided to hustle further.
So how did you decide on the roles with your co-founder? Who was responsible for what when building the product, and then, let's say, when scaling it?
So that was pretty easy for us. Even historically, I was the technical guy, so my role was definitely, to build the product and to make sure that the services are up and running 24/7. And Dominic was on the business side, so he was the CEO.
Okay, then the offer came from GoDaddy. So what was your initial reaction?
Hell no.
And then?
So the thing is that we got introduced to GoDaddy because we wanted to, but for a different reason. GoDaddy is like a good selling channel if you have a website builder like we did, and at that time, companies like GoDaddy, they were upselling people to products like, hey, mobilize your website. So you basically build a website on any kind of website builder, and then you mobilize it. So we create like the M.dot representation of their site, but what we were actually building was a responsive site, fully responsive site, mobile, on desktop, and you could just use your smartphone. So we contacted them and we told them, hey, so what we have is far superior to what you are selling right now. So let's set up a selling channel through GoDaddy. They were very interested by what we had. After like 14 days or so, they came back to us like, guys, we are deeply sorry. We really can do business with you because we are a small startup and it's really volatile and everything, but we want to acquire you. And we were not ready at that point whatsoever to hear anything like that because it was really early. Our product wasn't even finished yet at that point. So we had a beta out for several early users, but this caught us by surprise, and it took another almost 4 months of hard negotiation until we agreed from our part.
I see. Once the deal was signed, how did the kind of technical integration and also the leadership implementation look like between M.dot and GoDaddy, let's say from the managerial point of view? How was the transition period? How did it work?
So I guess you're asking about our roles and how it transitioned
Yes.
at GoDaddy. So our roles going forward after the acquisition was we were basically on the director level, reporting to the CPO, Chief Product Officer at GoDaddy, and basically at the beginning, our biggest challenge was to integrate M.dot with the whole GoDaddy infrastructure, with all the services and products they had seamlessly. At the end of the day, it actually even required the change of the name and everything, so it wasn't named M.dot anymore after like 6 months or so, but the good thing is that we maintained our independence on everything that was happening in the company. The job was obvious, but we were able to do things our way, which was basically one of the selling points for us on why we decided to agree on the deal.
Mm-hmm. So what would you tell were the three kind of main events or important decisions that you've made with Dominic that actually led to this success?
There was so many of decision points,
Let's pick the most important.
The first one was probably the idea itself. Like, everybody can have dozens of ideas, but you really need to lock on one, right? You need to decide that, hey, this is it. I'm going all in on this idea. So that was probably the first decision when we decided that, hey, this is a real gap on the market and we need to address it. Second was our focus on the product. We both are really product oriented, and we believe that you don't build companies, you really build products. The company is just a vessel around the product itself, at least from the startup perspective. As long as you can call yourself a startup. And the third one was definitely us moving to the Silicon Valley.
This is my next question in regards to moving to Silicon Valley. So what would you say, like, how did it change you, or what did your stay or life in Silicon Valley teach you in terms of building the network, in terms of building the company, and actually like the life itself in the US? What did it teach you?
Well, a lot of things. People in Silicon Valley are much more positive and straightforward than I could imagine before. You can hear stories about the whole environment, about Silicon Valley. Like, you don't know what you hear is actually an urban legend, what's not, what's real, what's not, and there's a lot of BS going on around Silicon Valley that you can hear here and then. But the truth is that it was really easy for us to connect to people, to get to meet people that we couldn't imagine, while being here. What was, for instance, one really nice moment was that we got to meet pretty randomly with David Rusenko, who's the CEO of Weebly, which is one of the biggest website builders out there. They have almost like 50 million registered users on their platform, and he was so helpful to us. He knew that we are basically competition. He knew that what we want to build, if he didn't catch up quickly, would basically put him out of business. It wouldn't, but we would be a hard competition for him, even though he decided to be helpful. He even gave us some advices that, hey, at your stage of the business, you really need to take care of this, and that, and you need be extra careful about this. And he was talking to us like that for 2 hours. We got out of that meeting like, what the hell just happened? That's not the kind of attitude that you are used to, born and raised in Czechoslovakia.
Yeah. So, in general, entrepreneurs, they have big ideals on Silicon Valley. So what would you say is the biggest kind of misperception that people have about Silicon Valley?
Well, I discussed it with my wife once. What's like the biggest misunderstanding about Silicon Valley? It's really hard to find some because most of the stories really are true that you can hear about it. But from our perspective, you know, if you've never been to Silicon Valley before, you can feel it's this kind of a geeky place filled with geeks that live in their bubble. But it's not really true. Like, it's a vibrant environment. We actually had a lot of friends that had nothing to do with the whole startup culture. We're really surprised about this whole place and, you know, and people there. So the misconception that I felt was that they live in bubble, but they don't. Like, they might be spoiled a little bit by all the services that they have around them, especially on-demand services lately, but they, like, on a people level, they don't live in any bubble.
Yeah. Kind of moving outside of Silicon Valley and taking the more general perspective, nowadays it's a trend that entrepreneurs, they work on a few projects at the same time, which is on one hand positive. There are some negatives as well. What would be your advice to those who are kind of in the intersection between different projects, let's say one or two projects? And what do you think is the kind of how they should decide? Like, what should be the kind of the way they should be looking for when deciding or which project to take or kind of work on?
So first, the short answer: pick one. Right? Laser sharp focus on just one.
What if I have two big ones?
That won't work. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the success itself it's when you give it a little bit more, right? If you have two different sets of focuses that you do on a daily or weekly basis, you don't get to think about it when you wake up, when you go to bed. You don't think about it when you shower. You have multiple things you have to think about, really. So you just scratch the surface. You don't go deep when you do multiple things. So when we decided, for instance, to build M.dot, we asked these questions ourselves because we had a few products out there that we were still selling. And we decided to kill it entirely so that we can focus on M.dot only. It was a hard decision at that point, but we couldn't really focus. We couldn't really, you know, think about each and every detail on the way.
How do you look for talent? What is that that is very important when trying to get the right people into your team?
Well, I mean, we can meet for another several hours because this is a hot topic. It obviously depends on the stage where you are at. So if you are building a new company, obviously you have to start with your friends, family, then you go to the next level, which is the references, like, hey, do you know the guy that could help me out with this? Basically use your network first. If you are in later stages, for instance, then yes, you can use, like, you can build your sources, and you can use some recruitment companies. But if you are asking me about what I am looking for in candidates, it's not really their skills. It's really what kind of people they are, what are their motivations, where they want to go. It's really about that, because when that person is willing to learn, if he's hungry and he has all the good motivations besides money, then that's the right person that will actually grow with you and your startup.
that's what we should be looking for.
Yeah. It's actually interesting. We had one of our guests, when we asked him this question, he said like he never does interviews. He always takes them for a beer. And then after you have a beer or two, then you actually know like who the person really is, which is quite interesting approach.
I would love to do that. Maybe here in Slovakia you can, or you could, but in Silicon Valley it's so big.
I can imagine. So when you build a company as an entrepreneur, you're ought to work many hours. You have to sacrifice a lot of your weekends, your spare time. How did you tackle this when you were building the product? I can imagine that your life was filled with the work. So how did you manage your work-life balance? Or maybe how are you managing still?
So at the beginning, I didn't really think about it. It was like, hey, I need to do that, I want to do that, because it's my passion to build this product, or it's my passion to code. So I wasn't really thinking about hours. So I would easily spend 14, 15, 16 hours a day coding. Even weekends. I went like that for 6 or 7 years in the past, until a certain point when you realize that it's probably not a wise way to live your life. So I had to learn how to balance my life with the work. All of us read quite a lot of things about balancing work and life. To me, it took like 6 years to even start thinking about it. Right now, I try to, consider weekends saint. Like for me, I don't even get my notebook out during weekends. I try to work reasonable hours. On one hand, you might feel that you are not doing enough. On the other hand, you have all that extra time, you can actually think about your product, about what you are doing. And you are less likely to be reckless with some decisions or some work that you might not have even do in the first place. That was unnecessary, basically. So from that perspective, it gives you the extra time to think.
How does your morning routine look like, and what do you do on your usual day? When working?
You mean a weekday?
Weekday, yeah. Weekday, let's say.
Right now, weekday, I basically, my daughter wakes me up. That's how it starts. Basically, like 1 or 2 hours earlier than I would love to. So until I really wake up even mentally, or after that, for me it's spending time on either figuring out what to do next, or coding. That's what I do until now. I still have some ideas about what I want to build, what I want to do, and so I'm writing these small proofs for myself. So that's what I do. I still want to keep myself fresh when it comes to coding. If I am not doing anything, my hands start shaking. So I would say that I'm still workaholic to a certain extent, but I'm just trying not to be.
What is your take on our local startup ecosystem? I mean, we know there is a lot of technical knowledge, venture capital is present, we have good location within Europe. So what do you think is missing or needs to be changed in order to kind of steer up the entrepreneurial community here?
That's a hard question. So, as you mentioned, there's almost everything we need in here. There's a vibrant ecosystem. There are people that are genuinely interested in startups. There are angel investors. There are VC funds in here. So money is here. there's a bunch of incubators, accelerators in here. Like, it feels like a working environment, but it feels like it's not, because not a lot of people are actually willing to take the risk of running a startup. And even if they do, it doesn't seem like they are thinking about tackling the product market fit in the right way. Like, yes, we do have great technical talent in here. If we are talking about technology startups, we do. But from the business perspective, I would still say there's a lot we need to learn here.
So, kind of differentiating between our, like, let's say, Central European ecosystem and ecosystem or startup community in Silicon Valley. What do you think is the biggest difference in perception of kind of entrepreneurship in here and in Silicon Valley?
That exactly might be the reason why we feel it's not working in here as we would love it. It's the perception of entrepreneurship. It's the perception of how people are actually willing to take the risk. How are people thinking about their ideas? Like, as I said before, all of us have good ideas, and we feel like, oh, this would be awesome if I would build it. But in Silicon Valley, they just go and they try. It's maybe the education, right? Because in Silicon Valley, or not just Silicon Valley, but anywhere, on the west side of Czech or Slovakia, or especially in the United States, their education system is set up in a way that they teach you how to work in teams, how to work on projects, how to think in a creative way. But in here, our education system hasn't evolved much in the last centuries, and everyone needs to, follow the right protocol, basically, work solo. We are, in our schools, I feel we are raised as good employees, not really good entrepreneurs. That needs to change.
Coming back to your kind of personal story, so what were your, let's say, 3 biggest fuck-ups so far, and what did you learn from them? You don't have to tell 3, maybe 1 or 2.
Firstly, yes, I lived through a lot of fuck-ups, but at this point, I would consider either of those a fuck-up, honestly, because it was a learning, it led me somewhere in my life. As I said, I take it as a learning opportunity, whether it's a problem in my personal life, or it was a business situation, or a technical situation. It's learning, really. If you consider anything a fuck up, it's just taking you down, and I would rather do that. But what I did before, I have to confess, I was once fixing a bug in production, and it didn't go well.
That hurts.
Not gonna do that ever again.
So what are you working on currently? I mean, you moved just recently to Slovakia, into a nice house near Bratislava, quite close to the city. What's your plan currently, if you can reveal something?
So I had a bunch of ideas on what to do next. I moved here firstly because of family. Now I was thinking about, hey, so what to do with the entrepreneurship now while being in here. It didn't take long, basically. Both me and Dominic had some ideas, so right now we are in the process of validating that, but it will take a while until I can go public with the information, because is far outside our current comfort zone. So we are at this stage where we are learning, and we are basically fine-tuning even our way in this specific market. We don't know anything about it, but it keeps us excited.
So let's say your current idea turns into the project and it manages to take off. Would you consider staying here or definitely shoot to US again?
So considering our setup, where Dominic is in Silicon Valley and I'm here, I guess it's a good situation for us, where Dominic can do business in there and I can run the technical part in here. So my plan is definitely to stay in here. My plan is not to move back to Silicon Valley. Even though it's my second home after those several years I spent there, whenever I feel homesick, I can just fly in for a while, right?
Yeah. What would be your kind of advice to aspiring entrepreneurs, like young people that want to establish their company? Kind of some motivation words.
Right, so there's no silver bullet, right? Like some advice that would suddenly, change the lives. It's typically much more complex. But there's one thing, if I do the step back, there's definitely one thing that I believe keeps people from their dreams, and it's typically just their will. They just need to keep pushing. They need to do something. If they have an idea and they like that idea and they believe it would keep them excited, just do something about it. It's really about the will. It's not like, it's not another day.
Yeah.
That's probably the thing that keeps you from being successful.
Great. So let's move on to the Slido. We have a couple of questions, so we can go one by one. Did you go into your business with a strategy or goal to be acquired long term? What advice would you give to startups aiming for such a goal?
Nope. Never done it before. That wouldn't work. If you build a startup with a certain goal, other than helping your customers, then you are doomed the first day. I believe that there are people who can set up their business to be acquired, that experience, maybe from Silicon Valley. We can hear such stories sometimes which are obvious, but I would definitely, I wouldn't suggest to do that. In our situation, we really saw opportunity on the market, we saw the gap, we wanted to tackle it, and from the business perspective, we were not thinking about the company or what the goal of that company would be. As I said before, our focus was sharp on the product itself, and that's what kept us excited.
The next one, what do you feel were your biggest sacrifices as an entrepreneur?
That's a hard one. Those sacrifices were mostly personal, on a personal level rather than business level, because when you get to spend most of the time behind the computer, the life just happens around you. So that's the thing that why you need to think about the work-life balance.
Great. How do you validate the idea?
Ask your potential customers. Really, just go out and ask.
What if I have usually I have negative response, right? Like people don't believe in the idea, people think it's crazy idea.
That means that you are maybe asking the right questions. Because would you rather want to hear that, hey, it's a great idea, you should definitely do that, I would definitely buy it. It would, asking questions is an art a little bit. You need to really, if you ask and validate ideas with your customers, you need to ask them about past and present, never the future. Don't ask them what they would do, never, ever. always ask them what they do right now, what they did in the past. And from all those answers you collect, you can create an image of the perfect product they would definitely pay for.
So how did you validate your idea at that time?
That was maybe one of the issues at the beginning, since we were so afraid that someone could copy our idea, we were stealth for a while, at least for the necessary time until we built the prototype of our platform. Once we had that and we had something that we could show to the people, we went out there and started to ask actual people, actual small business owners, and we wanted to validate some of our ideas. What was great was that our platform was flexible enough, so when we heard some feedback that didn't really go along with our plans, those changes were not really hard to do, but we did that pretty frequently. So our vision is one thing, but it also shapes as you go and as you ask your potential customers.
Do you consider Silicon Valley the ideal place for a startup? Does European mindset need to be adjusted accordingly? Thank you.
Mindset, adjusted, it depends, adjusted from what, right? So the Silicon Valley mindset is typically understood to be the right mindset to run your business, to launch your startup and everything. I don't think that's the only way to go. As I said, it's really about your will. If you want to do something, it's really all about how much time you spent on that and what you want. I mean, what you want to do. How much you really want to do that. When it comes to Silicon Valley itself, does the startup has to be there? No. We've heard a lot of success stories even outside of Silicon Valley. Companies that have nothing to do with Silicon Valley. I think it's possible. Going to Silicon Valley with your startup, that's just a shortcut. Or you are significantly raising your chances to be successful because of the vibrant environment there, but it's not the only way to go.
So if you were to choose go somewhere else than Silicon Valley, where would you go? Anywhere.
I'm in Bratislava. What do you think?
So let's say you have your company and you want to scale it, and Silicon Valley is not an option. Where's the hotspot at the moment?
So here's the thing. First one is to actually, run your startup or to launch it, to start it. At that stage, what could be wise is to be close to your potential customers, to understand them, to know where you are going with them. To scale your startup, I believe that's the point where you typically, not always, but typically stop being a startup. That's the point where you validated your ideas, you validated the product, you validated the business model. Now you have, everything lined up, and at that point you can say, hey, I'm ready to scale. I'm ready to, launch this globally, for instance.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't think you're a startup anymore. You're just a regular business.
How do you think creative yet strategic thinking can be sparked and taught to the local startup entrepreneurial community in Bratislava?
Well, it's events like this one. People talk to each other, people support each other, people share their experience, and they support each other to actually start something meaningful. As I said at the very beginning, the way how I learn is the hands-on experience. If people hear a lot of success stories or hear a lot of information on that, hey, it's not that hard as it looks. They might feel empowered in building their own ventures and live through that hands-on experience themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we should be doing all the time. We need to support entrepreneurship in Slovakia, in Czech Republic, in the whole Eastern European region, because our schools didn't do it for us. We need to do it ourselves.
Yeah. Maybe we can do one more. What do you think could the ideal role of business, non-technical people at a startup company?
It really depends on the startup, right? So it also depends who your customer is. Is it a consumer? Is it a small business owner? Is it an enterprise business? There's a bunch of other verticals you can focus on. So it really depends on what you want to do, where you want to go, what you want to build, but there's always a role for non-technical people in startups at specific stages. Like, if you just want to validate some algorithm or technical concept that's the backbone of your product, you probably don't need any non-technical people at that point. But you might want to if you are looking for someone who can validate those ideas, going out there, for instance, and help out and ask people, right? There's always a need for non-technical people. Technical people tend to overcomplicate things also, so non-technical people can, keep them grounded.
Pavel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, thanks again for coming. Thanks to our supporters, our partners, for to the organizers and the people in NetBalka. Just a kind of a quick heads up. We are opening a new co-working space in a couple of weeks called 100 Campus. It's going to be based in Liska Dolina. So next time, stay tuned, guys. In 3 weeks, we're going to organize the big Startup Grind, and we are bringing quite interesting speakers. So stay tuned. Thank you very much again. Bye.